Bonjour mes étudiants. Voici le deuxième de nos vidéos sur le passé composé. Here is our second video of the passé composé, and what you just saw over there was my dog settling in to learn some French, and I hope you will too. I've got a little bit of a cold and I've got my hair up and I've looked better for the camera, but I will help you with French today. Les verbes conjugués au passé composé avec être is the subject of this video. The ones where you conjugate the passé composé, the verbs where you conjugate the passé composé with the verb être instead of avoir. And these are sometimes called les verbes de mouvement. And I'll go over why they're called that. But there are a number of other things that they're called. I learned them from a French teacher who taught me les verbes de mouvement. But other people have other names, and you will learn the verbs in any case. And we're going to talk about another topic in this video that you've already covered, which are reflective verbs, les verbes réfléchis. I did a video earlier that I sent to you about that, and this is how you would use the passé composé with those briefly. Here we go. La majorité des verbes sont conjugués au passé composé avec le verbe avoir comme verbe auxiliaire. The majority of verbs in the passé composé in French are going to use avoir as the auxiliary verb. For instance, j'ai parlé avec votre sœur. I spoke, or I have spoken with your sister. J'ai marché toute la journée. I walked all day long. Nous avons vu le film. We saw the film. Ils ont étudié le français pendant 2 ans. They studied French for 2 years. So that's avoir, and that's pretty typical. Mais il y a un nombre limité de verbes qui sont conjugués avec le verbe être comme verbe auxiliaire. There are only a few verbs and a whole sort of class of situation where you would use être instead of avoir as the auxiliary verb, and that's what we're studying today. How would you use être? And I'll have a homework assignment for you at the end of the video. Voici la liste limitée de 16 verbes. It's 16 verbs. The French have an expression, ce n'est pas la mer à boire. It is not the whole sea to drink. It's 16 verbs. You can memorize 16 verbs. I know you can. Here is the list of them, though, so that you can remember them now as you are learning them. Devenir, which means to become. Revenir, which means to come back. Monter, which means to go up, as in monter l'escalier, go up the stairs. Rentrer, which means to come back in, to go back inside, to return to something that you're doing. When they talk about back to school, the way that the French say it is la rentrée, which means the coming back, using the verb rentrer. Sortir, which means to exit, to go out. If you're ever in a place where there are emergency exits and the language is French, they will say sortie over the door, which means emergency exit. Venir, which means to come. You will recall that we learned the immediate future and the immediate past, and the immediate past can be expressed with je viens de danser, I just danced. Je viens de parler, I just spoke. The verb literally means to come. And that is one of the verbs that you'll be using in this 16. Arriver, that is simply to arrive. Naître, to be born. Naître is a verb that is conjugated with être in the passé composé. Descendre, to go down. Je monte l'escalier and je descends l'escalier. I go up and I go down. Je monte la montagne, je descends la montagne. I go up the mountain, I descend the mountain. I go down the mountain. Entrer, to enter. Retourner, to return to, essentially is implied here. Tomber, to fall, like as in to fall down. Rester, to stay. Aller, it's a verb you know, to go. Mourir, to die. And finally, partir, to leave. All right, those are the 16 major verbs in which anyone would ever use the conjugation of the passé composé with être. I would suggest that you write these down. You can slow or pause the video and I would make a list of them. Pour s'en souvenir, on les appelle parfois les verbes Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp. Here we are imagining Dr. and Mrs. Van der Tramp. And the reason is not because we are writing wedding invitations and we're being super old-fashioned about it. But notice what they have done. They've created a mnemonic device. Doctor would be in the infinitive devenir, revenir. And then with the ampersand, you can skip that. Mrs. Monter, rentrer, sortir. Mrs. And then Van der Tramp, which I suppose could be somebody's last name. Venir, arriver, naître, descendre, entrer, retourner, tomber, rester, aller, mourir, partir. You absolutely can memorize it this way. You can also think about the past participles, and I'm just going to say these out loud for you so you can hear them. Devenu, revenu, monté, rentré, sorti, venu, arrivé, né, descendu, entré, retourné, tombé, resté, allé, morte, or mort, parti. So all of those are the past participles for this group of verbs. It's nice to have this list. You may wish to copy it down. When I learned these verbs, these were called les verbes de mouvement. And here you can see how they could be called that. Here we see a house where we have somebody going, arriving, entering, sitting and staying, exiting, leaving, passing, falling, monter, descendre, and then retourner, it looks like. So you've got all of these different verbs. I will say this. This isn't all of them, but this is the reason why I think my teacher called them les verbes de mouvement as sort of a category of verb, is that so many of them have to do with physical movement. That's not true for all of them. I mean, naître and mourir, je suis né, un jour je serai morte. Those are verbs that have to do with the passage of time, and it's not like most of us don't leap to our death, thank God. And the other ones, sortir, devenir. Devenir is not really a thing where you always are physically doing a thing to become, but some sort of transformation. Um, why these verbs? Why être? I cannot tell you except to say that all children have to memorize them if they're learning French in grade school. And all French learners who are not necessarily children have to learn them as well. La bonne nouvelle, the good news, c'est qu'il n'y en a pas beaucoup. It's that the good news is that there aren't very many of them. 16 is not, comme j'ai dit avant, ce n'est pas la mer à boire. It's not the sea to drink. On peut apprendre par cœur cette liste. One can learn by heart this list. Apprendre par cœur, it means to learn by heart. If you just discipline yourself a little with this, you'll totally get it. I personally never memorized them. I think maybe I did memorize them in 8th grade for a test, but I quickly forgot them, and rather it was through practice that I became certain of when to use avoir instead of être, or être instead of avoir. Alors, comment conjuguer ces verbes au passé composé? Ce n'est pas trop difficile. You've done harder things in this class. Let's begin at the absolute beginning of human life, naître, to be born. And in fact, you've seen this before. If there is a wedding announcement, I was talking about wedding invitations before, but wedding announcements. Pardon me, I'm thirsty and I don't want to cough because that's yucky. Né is something that you would see sometimes near the bride's name after she is married. Né is what the name she was born with. But it's also in all parts of the discussion of birth in French. There's even this lovely Christmas carol. I think it goes, Il est né le petit enfant. He is born the little child. It's a very pretty song. Not necessarily when I sing it. All right. You know how to conjugate être. You know this cold. Je suis, tu es, il est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils sont. You already know that. You know that. So all I do is I add the past participle. Je suis né. Je suis né en octobre, I might say. I was born in October, which indeed is true. Tu es né aux États-Unis. You were born in the United States. Elle est née, and notice here that I would add the extra E here if I say elle est née, because it's a feminine subject. Nous sommes nés. Here I absolutely have to have an S because it's a plural subject, and depending on the gender of the group, it either has the extra E or it doesn't. Vous êtes né. You were born. And again, vous is sometimes plural. Tu never is. Vous is sometimes plural, and it can be either masculine or feminine, so you would have to, yes. Oh my goodness, somebody is excited to be sitting with me on a couch. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted. He wants to learn French too. So, Cruiser, tu es né à Mississippi. You were born in Mississippi. Mon chien est né à Mississippi. Vous êtes nés, ils sont nés, elles sont nées. Again, because this is a plural subject at all times, it must have an S, but depending on whether it is ils sont nés, it would be N with the E accent aigu and S, or elles sont nées with the extra E. It works like an adjective, this past participle, because it is conjugated with être. as the auxiliary verb. But it means the same thing as like if I say je suis venu, I am saying I have come. We don't have verbs that are particularly conjugated in contemporary English with être, although there was a time where we did. Remarquez, notice, le participe passé s'accorde avec le sujet. The past participle agrees with the subject. This is important because that means that you have to pay attention if the subject is plural or singular or masculine or feminine. And you must add an appropriate number of E's at the end or S's. So here is another example. Let's try it one more time. This is with venir. Je suis venu, I just talked about. Tu es venu. Il est venu, elle est venue, on est venu. Notice again, depending on gender, it might get an E on the end. Nous sommes venus. It absolutely must have an S. It may have an E as well. Vous êtes venu. It may be singular, but it may be plural or feminine, not just masculine. Ils sont venus must have an S on the end. Elles sont venues, ES on the end. Now here is a totally different situation. You will recall we studied les verbes réfléchis. Well, there is a way where we use the verb être to conjugate these things. You remember this very picture, perhaps, of this lady brushing her teeth, and I would say, elle se brosse les dents. Remember that? There's a whole video. You can go back and watch it. Well, if I'm going to use a reflexive verb in the passé composé tense, I am going to conjugate it with être. Je me brosse les dents. Elle se lave les cheveux. She washes her hair. Those are the kinds of situations we have, and we'll use être, but it's a little different. Let me show you. So notice what I'm doing here. I say je me brosse les dents, but here I say je me suis brossé les dents. And notice something important. The thing that is reflexive here, the subject is the teeth. Because of the idiomatic nature of the verb with the reflexive pronoun, I actually don't need to make the agreement. I'm a woman, so if I were going to say somehow I brushed myself as some kind of thing, I would say je me suis brossé with an E on the end, or je suis né with an extra E, je suis venu with an extra E, je suis retourné avec an extra E because I'm feminine. But here I would say as a woman, or if I were a man, je me suis brossé les dents. Tu t'es brossé les dents. Remember, you would say tu te brosses les dents. Now it becomes tu t'es brossé les dents. Il s'est brossé les dents. He brushed his teeth. And notice again, elle s'est brossé les dents. There's no feminine extra E. Nous nous sommes brossé les dents. That's nous is always plural. But here again, there is no change. Nous nous sommes brossés les dents. Vous vous êtes brossé les dents. Ils se sont brossés les dents. Elles se sont brossées les dents. I don't have another slide for this, but I will briefly do this with laver, so you can just hear it. Je me lave les cheveux. Remember, I'm washing my hair. there was a musical song that was popular in the 40s. I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair. Sort of so. Je me lave les cheveux. Je me suis lavé les cheveux. Tu t'es lavé les cheveux. Il s'est lavé les cheveux. Elle s'est lavé les cheveux. On s'est lavé les cheveux. Nous nous sommes lavé les cheveux. Vous vous êtes lavé les cheveux. Ils se sont lavé les cheveux. Elles se sont lavé les cheveux. There you have it. Everybody's hair is clean except for mine because I was outside for a good portion of the day and it's all kind of frizzy and gross. Remarquez que le participe passé ne s'accorde pas avec le sujet avec le verbe réfléchi. Idiomatically, with a reflexive verb, even though I am the one doing the hair washing, hence I am the subject of the sentence, I wash my hair. Nevertheless, I don't make, in French, the past participle agree with the subject because the reflexive nature changes the requirement to do so idiomatically in French. So again, let me just say this so that it kind of is something you absorb. This is a lot of new information. Where I have a verb that is one of those 16 verbs that is conjugated with être, I treat the past participle just as I would an adjective. Elle est arrivée would have an extra e. Elle est arrivée. She has arrived, gets an extra e at the end. But elle s'est lavé les cheveux does not, because it is in a different category of verb that conjugates the passé composé with être. If you have questions about this, talk to me. Mais maintenant, alors, à vous de faire un devoir. Traduisez ces phrases. I'm asking you to translate a few sentences. If you can do this, you are going to master this with some practice. How would you say, she has brushed her teeth every morning? He died in 1918. The twins were born in 1988. We returned home yesterday. They washed their faces before midnight. You arrived before the appointment. There's more than one way to translate you arrived before the appointment, depending on the formality and plurality of how you define you. I think that is not a lot to translate, but it is plenty of hard work when you're learning to do something new. I think that you've got this. I trust that you are going to do a great job. J'ai confiance en vous. I have confidence in you. And so I'm going to send you out along with my dog Cruiser to go forth and master this component of the passé composé.